Move from there. Baby steps. Baby steps. You can't just jump right in on the first date and be like, oh, I want to do you. No, you can't. You gotta take it slow. You gotta take it slow. You can't just, oh, hey, you want to go out? Go to a restaurant? And then show up and just be like, oh, hey, as soon as you see her, hey, I want to feed you my meat sausage. Like, you can't. You gotta play it smooth, buddy. You gotta play it smooth. You can't just do that shit. Jesus. And it's brutal because I know people that are like that. Like, there's people that do that shit. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, you gotta understand that not every woman is like that. Get to know them before you just bust that shit out. Like, at least get to know them. See if they're able to, like, take that kind of verbal statement, if that's what you want to call it, right out of the bat like that. Don't just, like, bust that out. What if she's like some uptight corporate piece of shit that, like, you know, they got to her. They got to her. So, like, the smallest little thing, like, she can't even fucking, like, show a nipple without fucking, like, thinking she's gonna go to jail or some shit. Like, what if she's like that? Now she's got, like, the biggest fucking stick up her ass. You can't just bust that shit out. You gotta, like, break her down. You gotta break her down, boys. Or even I mean, I guess it goes for girls. It's less of an issue for girls. They don't do that shit though. So, like, it's less of an issue. I'm mainly talking to the boys out there, the gentlemen. Get yourself a nice haircut, right? Maintain the beard. If you have a beard, you see this? Make sure it's maintained. All right? Make sure it's nice and nice. Don't have like random fucking hairs sticking out and here and there. You gotta trim that shit up, right? Make it nice and sexy, right? You can't just do that shit. Trim that beard up. Get the pocket square. Make sure you're nice and, you know, appealing to look at. Don't just fucking show up looking like a monster, like a hobo. But I want to feed you my meat missile. Dude, are you kidding me? That's borderline retarded behavior. I'm not gonna lie. It's borderline, like, you might as well just put a football helmet on and lock yourself in, like, one of those institutions. Because if that's how you want to act, then I have no mercy for you. I have zero compassion. That's brutal. It's brutal. But I mean, on the flip side, if you know the girl and she's like a little bit wild like that and she doesn't give a fuck and she's just like, she's into that, yeah, no problem. But guess what? You have to get to know her first. You have to get to know her first. You can't just, like, be walking around whipping your dick out in public and just smacking random women. Just skip the first date. Just don't even get to the first date. Fuck the first date. That's like borderline like criminal behavior. But for some reason it still happens. Like, I seriously want to know, like, what are people thinking? Like, unless they're like on drugs or like wasted on like whatever, drunk, right? Like, if you're sober and you're doing that, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like you must be. There's got to be something going on. Like, I would love to know the thought process of, like, you read about these guys, right? You read about them in the news, and every now and then you get like, oh, you know, 30-year-old lady sleeps with 3 high school football players. I mean, I get that, right? I understand. Sure, it's against the law and all that, but I understand. Like, I can walk myself through logically. Okay, I can see what's happening. I understand, right? I can understand from the boy's perspective, and I can understand from her perspective, right? They're just horny motherfuckers, and they just don't give a fuck, and they just want to fuck. But I can see where they're coming from. But, and like, there's a process. You go through a process. You do that. But then every now and then you read the stories. Every now and then it's just like, man arrested, you know, man, whatever, white male. It's always a white male in his 30s. It's always that. Like, black guys and stuff, they just don't do that shit. It's, well, sometimes Indians do it, but it's most of the time it's a white guy in his 30s, and It's like so and so arrested for sexually assaulting a woman in public, and then you read the article and it's like she was just standing at the bus stop and he came up to her and like whipped his cock out and like started fucking masturbating in front of her. Like, what do you, if you're sober, I need to know. Like, I don't know how that, like, what do you think? What are you trying to do? Why, like, do you really think that is gonna work? Like, if you wanna like, if that's what you want, there are better and more effective ways to go about it. Like, and it's, I can understand maybe like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but now you have the internet. You have access to all this information. Like, there's no excuse. Like, $5, half an hour of panhandling, even if you're homeless, right? Go into an internet cafe, watch some YouTube videos. Like, there's no excuse as to, like, yeah, okay, it's wrong, but we're not even talking about whether it's right or wrong. We're talking about like why would you think that will actually, she's gonna reply, oh yeah, I'm just gonna start fucking taking my clothes off, you can fuck me right here on this bus stop. Like how that, what's the thought process? Like, what walk me through from like A to B to C to the end goal. You start here, this is, okay, I'm gonna walk up to her and I'm gonna whip my dick out and I'm gonna just start jerking off in front of her. Walk me through the thought process of like when you got from there and then how you're gonna get to your goal. Like, how can that possibly add up in your mind that that's gonna work? How? I'm curious. Which is like, I mean, we go back to what I said earlier. They've got to be like on drugs or some shit, or drunk, or some sort of mental damage to the prefrontal cortex. Inhibitions have been severely diminished. Self-control out the window, kind of situation like that, right? There's got to be something going on. But like any person that's sober and like normal, relatively normal, you never know. There's always something. Like, what's happening? Like, let's just forget. Like I said, forget that it's right or wrong. Whatever. Just think about like usually you read these articles, you try to put yourself in the positions of these people so you like understand, okay, whatever, maybe, I don't know. Empathy, right? But in that situation, it's like you can't. You try to, but you can't. You can't really latch on to that thought process because it's like, well, there's every other possible thing that you can do is better than that. Like, it's more effective than that. Not more correct, but more effective, just in terms of like your end goal. Like, it's weird. It's weird. Like, hey, whatever happened to just like, hey, walk up to her, hey, how are you? You know, be all fucking shifty and weird, like, oh, hey, oh, yeah, hey, what's going on, huh? Oh, yeah, you look, you smell so good. When's that bus getting here, huh? No, just rub one out in the alley before you go up to her, you know, just clear your mind a little bit, just fucking, hey, what's going on, how are you, huh? And that's it. Be prepared to have a normal conversation. Be prepared for her to be like, leave me alone, I'm married, or whatever, right? But it's just like, hey, where are you headed? Nice day. Some people don't like bullshit weather talk, so don't say nice day. I don't know, you can throw that out. But like, move to the next topic quickly. Have a fucking conversation. Get to know her a little bit. Go for a coffee. See if she's into that, right? If she's not, don't do it. But if she is, then, you know, one day it's like a nice little surprise. Nice little surprise. Come home from work. You know, she's sitting there fucking like watching TV or some shit. You just fucking go into the bedroom, take your clothes off, right? Come back out in your like home clothes. Just fucking sit down beside her. Bam, just whip the dick out and start, you know, playing with yourself. And she'd be like, ooh, right? But get to know her. Make sure she's into that, right? Everybody's different. Everybody's different. Don't just fucking do that shit, you know?
Ade saved my life.
Easy. I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, what are these people thinking? How does their brain work? Like, I'm fascinated with like how somebody's mind would work like that. What are you doing? Like, just go home and rub one out and just stop jerking off in front of women at bus stops. Like, and it still happens. Like, it still happens. You think, oh, you know, this is probably the last one I'm gonna read. No, people are smart. It's 2017. This is probably the last guy that's ever gonna do that. Sure enough, like 6 months later, you pick up a fucking newspaper and bam, there's a story. Buddy gets arrested for, you know, jerking off at a Subway or like at a McDonald's, like under the table while he's eating a Big Mac. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, seriously. How is that? Just explain to me. Explain to me how your head works. What are you doing? Like, what was it in the, like a month ago maybe, in California, there was that lady that, like, it was like headline news. It was like Trump, and then that story. Yeah, Trump was 3 times in the headline. But and so she's like, the story was that she fucked 3 football players, 3 high school football players, and she's like in her late 30s, like prime fucking age for women's sexuality, like just horny as fuck, right? Just a bag of hormones. And so, you know, I can understand that. I can understand that. And then from the boys' perspective, I can understand that. Like, you're a 15-year-old fucking football player. You're juiced. You're fucking jacked beyond belief. Like, and she was hot too. Like, she was fucking smoke show, right? From the boys' perspective, because I used to be a 15-year-old boy, that's just like, they had no choice. Let's just put it that way. They had no choice. They're like, fuck yes. Airtight all the way. 3 at the same time. 1 in each hole. Airtight. Just like a balloon. Blow her up like a balloon, boys. Right? That's... So, see, I read that story. I can put myself in their shoes. I can put myself kind of in her shoes. Because, hey, I know women that age, and I've yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I can see where she's coming from. Let's just put it that way. But I'll never understand the guys that just whip it out in public in front of women and just like start like what was your, like, I understand the end goal, and I guess I understand step 1, but walk me through the in-between steps. Walk me through the thought process from A to B, B to C. Just, I'm curious. I'm curious to know, like, how is that gonna work? Like, I mean, have you not read any newspapers ever? Has this ever worked before in the history of mankind? Has this ever worked? Why do you believe that you're gonna be the first guy that it works for? Huh? What's happening? Why do you think that? Like, what are you doing? If you're one of those guys and like you're somehow watching the stream from jail, hit me up. I'd love to see. Hit me up on Twitter. I'd like to talk to you. Just, you know, I might write a novel, or like make a documentary of like in the mind of a public masturbator. The thought process behind those eyes and those hands. You know how they have like the mind of a serial killer? This one's the mind of the public masturbator. What were they thinking?